All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Course Creator Community Podcast. I am super excited because we've got an awesome guest on the line this week. And I know I say that every single week about the guest, but this person is actually awesome. I'm a huge fan of his podcast. I recommend everybody check it out as well, the Certified Badass Online Marketing Podcast. Yeah, link in the show notes. A little bit about this person. He's an attorney turned entrepreneur. He's a storyteller. He's an email aficionado. And he helps entrepreneurs build their dream business. And what we're going to be speaking about specifically today is email marketing and how to do email marketing so that it doesn't suck. So without further ado, let me introduce the one and only Mr. Bobby Klink. Bobby, how are you?
I am good. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here, and talking about email always lights me up and makes me smile. So I think it's going to be a fun discussion today.
I'm looking forward to it. Bobby, I like to start all my podcasts off with a quote or mantra that inspires you or fires you up.
Yeah.
Have you got one?
So I guess what I would say is, I was actually writing an email yesterday, and there's this quote that I come back to over and over again, and it's from General Patton from World War II. And he says, a good plan violently executed now is better than a perfect plan executed next week. And so it's a mantra to remember to get into action. And for your listeners, I mean, one of the things that I see so many business owners and online entrepreneurs struggle with is they think they can think their way out of a problem, and we can't. We need to get into action, see what the market tells us and learn from that, and then kind of pivot, iterate, and things like that. And so I always stress to get into action. So I love that quote.
Yes, I love that as well. I think it's very specific for course creators as well, because it's kind of like, even if you look at it from a course creator side of things, there could be a course creator that spends a year creating the perfect course, the ID, the slides, the video, the editing, the sales page, right? There could be another course creator that does that in 12 weeks, let's say. And their first 12-week one sucks, right? But they learn from that, and then 12 weeks later, it's a bit better. At the end of the 12 months, both of them have got a course out. But I guarantee you that one that did it, 12 weeks is way better. You'd agree with that, Bobby?
Yeah. So, I mean, what I would say is I was kind of laughing when you were talking about somebody spending a year building the perfect course. Because look, I'm not sure there is a perfect course, but here is like what I will tell you. And I think everybody needs to learn this, but what you'll learn is what you think you're wrong. No matter what it is, you're wrong. And just assume you're wrong. And you're not going to figure out what is right until you put it out there and just see what happens. And so that's one of the things. That's why there are so many of these, failed launch stories and things like that. I have one of those from my background. But ultimately, I think the trick is don't spend a year and then have a failed launch. If you're going to have a failed launch, have it after 12 weeks, and then go on from there.
Bang on. I agree. All right, Bobby, I've been following you for a while now. I think we're connected. Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. I listen to your podcast, so I know what it is you do. People are listening. Tell us, Bobby, who are you? What do you do? How'd you get into it?
So I am probably the least likely person to be teaching email marketing, but especially like the way I teach email marketing, which is to be fun, add personality, because I'm a lawyer. I went to Harvard Law School. I lived the first, 15 years of my professional life being boring, wearing a suit, doing the thing of, it's funny. I think of this, my original headshot for podcasts, I was in a suit in the lawyer pose with looking kind of sideways with my arms crossed. And I just think of that as hilarious because that's never who I was. I was a punk rock kid. That's what I was growing up. But it took me a while to figure out that I didn't like what I was doing. But I kind of fell into this online marketing, digital marketing idea back when I launched my law firm in 2014. And I launched my law firm not because I had a great plan to, but because things kind of blew up at a firm I was at. And so I had a lot more time on my hands than clients. And so I was trying to figure out marketing. I was trying to figure out like, how do I actually, bring in some clients? And first I read books that were like marketing for lawyers. Those were dumb. I threw them out the window. And so then I started literally doing a Google search, how to market. I don't know, something like that. And somehow I found myself in going down this rabbit hole. And back in, it was probably 2014 or 15, I got certified as an inbound marketer through the HubSpot Academy, which is kind of funny. Not something most lawyers do, but I loved it. And so I started doing all those things. And then in 2000,
can I ask quickly there, Bobby, who was, when you were doing your Google search thing, who were the big names there? Or like, who was there anyone back then that you were like, all right, this guy, I'm going to follow this person or this woman?
For the life of me, I don't remember at the beginning. At the beginning, I think I fell into HubSpot and their stuff. But some of the first podcasts I listened to were John Lee Dumas with Entrepreneur on Fire. And there were some other ones along the way that I listened to, but that was a bit later. That was in probably 2016-ish when I started listening there. And really what happens when I started working with a life coach in 2016, and she talked about life and relationships, and we did all that stuff. And then sometime in early 2017, she asked me this question. She said, "Do you like what you do for a living?" And I stammered and finally said no. And then she said, "Okay, what are we going to do about that?" And that started this quest to slowly but surely move out of being a lawyer. I'm no longer a practicing lawyer. I still have my license. I sell legal templates to online entrepreneurs. I still do that and help people with that. But I quit practicing because my practice as a lawyer was fighting with people all day, every day. And that's just not something I enjoyed. But so I started into the online marketing space, started going on podcasts, talking about legal stuff for entrepreneurs, tried to launch a course. It failed miserably because I thought I knew better. And I was like, I know what my audience needs. And I didn't listen to my audience. Lesson listeners, it doesn't matter what you want or what you think. It matters what your audience needs and wants. So make sure you figure that stuff out. But so I was doing that, and 2017 was a rough year. I probably ended up spending somewhere around $50,000 in my online business and made no money back at all.
Wow. That was on courses, advertising, websites.
So it was courses. It was Facebook ads. It was, I bought a year subscription to ClickFunnels and then coaching to go with that. And so it was just all of that stuff and podcast booking agencies and all of the stuff. And I had the money. So I was funding it from the money I was making my law firm, but I made 0 sales online. And the end of 2017, I was in the dumps. I was ready to quit. But I'll never forget, it was New Year's Eve so December 31st, 2017 was a Sunday. And so we went to church, and I remember the pastor talking about the power of giving. And so I just decided on the fly right there that giving was my word of the year for 2018.
Okay.
And so I came into 2018 and I gave without expectation. I started just giving stuff away that other people wouldn't even think about. And I had my breakthrough year and went from nothing to $250,000 in 2018 in my online business. And it's
that was in 1 year, from 0 to 250K.
Yep. And it's even better than that. I mean, I didn't really sell anything until April, but look, there was some serendipity in there. 2018 was the year that this law called GDPR went into effect. I was entering the space as a lawyer helping online entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
But my giving drew the attention of Amy Porterfield.
Oh.
Pretty well known in the online marketing space.
In the online course space, she's number one.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so she asked me to actually be a guest teacher in a program she was creating, and then had me on her podcast. And her podcast episode with me went live the day before I was launching for the first kind of successful time, early May. And so it was a roller coaster year, but I learned a lot. And then what happened is in 2019, people started asking me, how did you build this business? How is it that you seem to be able to connect with people that you've never met and do those things? And so that started me on the path of being a business coach as well as a legal coach. And I first kind of rose to prominence business coaching wise, talking about email marketing, but also I like to say that I teach people how to treat their online business like a local shopkeeper in a small town where you know your people, you build those kind of connections. And so they're going to buy from you and they don't think twice. And so I started with something called the Fans First Society, which was about finding and cultivating your 1,000 raving fans. And I found that people really wanted to hear about email from me because I was known for writing kind of quirky emails that were cult favorites. And so I started doing that and leaned into it. And I've done that ever since and have continued to give more and more and have built a business I love.
Wow. I'm inspired from that story, Bobby, and I'm excited. I'm like, man, I can't wait to give these tips with hear these tips with that story there. Just let me just get my head around this here. So you're no longer doing the legal coaching, is that right?
So, I mean, I have legal templates that I sell for folks in America. I have legal templates that people can use to protect their online business. But part of the problem is you can't really do legal coaching. You have to practice law. And here in the US, I don't know what it's like in Australia, but here in the US, we have state specific cartels basically called bar associations. So you can't practice everywhere. And so when I moved online, that was a big part of I didn't want to do that. I sell templates. So I kind of say I'm the LegalZoom equivalent, but for online entrepreneurs and their needs. So I do that, but then separately have programs and coaching and membership to help people build their business.
Awesome. All right. So we're going to be speaking today about email. Just before we get into it, well, a couple of things. Firstly, you've got a book coming out, right, Bobby?
Yes, I do. It's called Email Marketing That Doesn't Suck. And the concept of it is, I mean, candidly, when I started to write the book, originally it was going to be a much more, I don't want to say heartfelt, but more of a manifesto, not about email, but about business the right way. And then I said, no, I'm not ready for that. I'm going to write a snarky, fun book about email. And so it's kind of meant to be a way of showing people how to think about marketing when you're building our kinds of businesses, which is kind of personality driven and how to connect with your people in a way that will ultimately allow you to sell. And so, that's coming out May 3rd. We're waiting. It's going to the printers at this point. And so it's kind of in their hands, but I'm excited for that to come out because it'll be a lot of fun.
Awesome. And you've got a free course as well, I believe. If people are listening to this podcast and like, I don't even want to listen to the podcast, just give me this guy's stuff. There's a free course they can access.
Yeah, so it's a course, but it's not really a course. I have what's called Badass Online Marketing University, or BOMU for short. I made the decision back in December of 2020 that my team and I made the decision. We don't sell our courses. We have courses, but we give them all away for free. We wanted to create a free training program to help online business owners learn a lot of the basic skills, marketing, list building, messaging. And I had an email marketing course that I had been selling before that, but we actually stopped selling it and we put it in there for free as well. So you can get access to all that free at bobbyklink.com/BOMU. That's just BOMU.
Awesome. And I'll put those links in the show notes. All right, I'm going to hand it over to you here, Bobby. So email marketing that doesn't suck. Where do we start? What's the first thing we need to do here?
Yeah. So the first thing that I'm going to say is like, I'm not going to give you a tactical thing up front because the first thing you need to do is change the way you're thinking about email. And what I like to say is that my success, I sell stuff with email. Back in 2018, I would do what became called non-launch launches. In 2019, I did non-launch launches. So I wasn't doing webinars. I wasn't doing anything like that. I would just send some emails. Yep. When I had an open cart, I would sell $50,000 in legal template packs. And so I would do these things. And people thought it was because I was a great conversion copywriter. I said, I am not. I mean, I can do conversion copy. The power of my email marketing is that I build a connection with my audience where they think of me as a friend. And so what I've done effectively is position myself as their friend. And so when I recommend something to them, it's like a friend recommending it to them. It's not like some random guy on the internet saying, buy my stuff. And so one of the things I tell people is I sell a lot more than most people. And by that, I mean, I'm selling a lot more than most people, but people don't see that in me because they feel like I'm just kind of a friend recommending stuff. And so that's kind of the big piece. And so what I tell people is the magic happens not when you go to sell. The magic happens in the weekly email that you send to your list every single week where you're connecting with them. And that is the thing. Now, again, I would say you want to have some very specific stuff happening when people first get on your list.
Yep.
But the weekly emails is where I found my magic. And it happened in 2018 when, after I went to Amy Porterfield's live event that year, and there was this big line to take pictures with her. I mean, I had connected with her and her team, and I had helped them with some legal stuff. I'd done a lot of stuff to help them, but I'd never met them in person. And so there was a line of people going to take pictures, and I got to the front and her integrator was there, and I wanted to take a picture with her as much as with Amy. So we take a selfie. And I didn't look at it until that night when I got back to my hotel room. So I get back and Amy is behind us, photobombing us, sticking her tongue out. And so, I mean, it was just this hilarious picture. This was on the West Coast of the US. I live on the East Coast. It's, I don't know, 11, 12 at night. I text the picture to my wife, who's back here in DC, not thinking anything of it. And I wake up the next morning to a text back from my wife that says, "Why are you sending me pictures of you with random women?" Because I didn't think about the fact that she has no idea who these people are. I mean, she heard me talk about Amy, but she has no clue. She thinks I'm just sending her a picture of me having a grand old time with random women. And so, I mean, I squared it away, but then like I told someone at that event, and there was a presentation about email and about telling stories. And so I tell this story to one of these new friends I'd met at this event. And she said, "I think that has to be your story for your next email." Mm-hmm. And so my next email, this I call my first good email I ever sent. Literally the subject line was, "Why are you sending me pictures of you with random women?" Yeah. And I told this story, and people loved it. Ironically, the guys on my list, I don't have a lot of guys on my list, but they responded because they thought that they had been hacked and that they had accidentally sent me, and that I was responding. But I got that
because they thought it was their wife sending him, right? They're like, "Oh,
well, no, they thought I was just sending them a thing saying, 'Hey, why are you sending me pictures of random women?'" They thought like the subject line was me sending a message to them, and so it was kind of funny. But so I did that, and I got this huge response. And so the next week I sent another, I don't remember what the story was, but another one of these story-based emails with just personality driven. I mean, I put a thing at the bottom about my podcast, but that wasn't the point. For the first time, my emails was about the story. And I did that. And after that second week, I got an email back from someone who said, "I've been on your list for a long time. And I got to be honest, this is the first time I felt like you're a person, not a company. And it's the first time I've wanted to do business with you."
Love it.
And so I was sold. And so ever since then, I mean, I've ditched the notion. I mean, I actually have a newsletter now. I send 2 emails a week, but I ditched the idea of a newsletter for a long time. And I said, I send story-based emails. And part of that, like, I don't know what you've experienced, but because my primary content medium was a podcast at that point, still is. I mean, people don't click on the links in an email to go check out a podcast, right? I mean, they go to Apple Podcast or wherever it is they listen to it. So I was never really caring about the click. So I said, well, what can I do to make this fun? And so I viewed, hey, if I can give people a smile, that's the value add for the week. And so I became famous for doing that. I sent, I've sent stories, I've sent emails that was about lice. I've sent emails that were about, what are some of my class ones? One of them, Easter week, once I sent an email that says the subject line was, "I don't like sweet baby Jesus." Oh. And I immediately diffused it because there's actually a beer from near me called Sweet Baby Jesus, which is an abomination. It is like a chocolate peanut butter double strong porter beer. And I'm like, look, I like Reese's peanut butter cup. I like beer. Keep them separate. Let's not put them together. And so, but again, I mean, those are the kinds of things I'm doing. And so people get to see me and know me, and they've connected with me. And the power of this kind of friendship dynamic really came through to me when it was, I don't know, it was in April, I guess, of 2020. So when the pandemic was hitting and we were kind of in the throes of it here in the US. And like, I sent an email because my integrator and I were going to have 2 days of all day meetings. And so my subject line was "Pray for Katie." And people had gotten to know my team member. And I got all these responses of people who were mad at me because from that subject line, they assumed that I was emailing them to tell them that Katie on my team had COVID. And it just hit me. I was like, look, I wouldn't send a mass email to my list about a medical issue, but they thought I would,
Yeah.
because they felt like that was the kind of connection that was built.
Yeah.
And so that's the power of email, is when you get that kind of connection. And so, I mean, I tell people, you don't need a huge list. You just need a connected, engaged list of people, and you can have a ton of power.
Love it. There's so many good things there. Let me try and break some of this down and ask some questions further here. So at the moment, even if we simplify it, you're sending out mainly story-based emails.
Yep.
Is there never a cell down the bottom of that email? Is there always a cell? How does that kind of things work? That side of things work?
So for my weekly emails, there is a cell, but it's not a cell. So I use a simple structure: hook, story, call to action. So almost every email is going to have hook, and then either story or metaphor or analogy, and then a call to action is the way I look at it. Now, but again, if it's not a promotional email, if it's a week in, week out email, the cell, especially for my podcast, it'll be in this week's episode of Certified Badass Online Marketing Podcast, we're talking about X, Y, and Z, and there's like a hyperlink in there. And then I will have 2 little paragraphs. And by little paragraphs, I mean 1 to 2 sentences each that briefly highlight what's in it. And then I would close it out with, so grab yourself a pint of beer, a cup of coffee, and go give this week's episode a listen. So that's it. That's the entire cell. The heart of those weekly emails is the story. And again, when you're selling, when you're promoting, that's very different. But on a week in, week out basis, that's what I'm doing, because I view that my goal there is not to get a click. My goal is not to convert. My goal is to connect on a weekly basis. And that is what I'm doing on that phase. Now, when you're in promotions, obviously it's very different. Like a promo email, you're going to use conversion copy. I have lots of bullets. I have all that stuff. When you write nurture emails that are happening at the beginning, when people first get on your list, if you're selling something, you're going to have those kinds of bullet points. You're going to have conversion copy and all that. But to me, I think that the key to making email work for businesses like ours is it's almost like an 80-20 rule. 80% of the time, you should just be connecting with people. 20% of the time, you're converting in some way, shape, or form.
Gotcha. Now, with those stories, are they always marketing-based stories? Like, let's say if someone's on your list, they get a story. Are they always getting is there a tip in their marketing as well? Or is it sometimes just or is it always just sometimes hey, here's what I did on the weekend. Here's what's happening with me.
So what I tell people is, again, because the point of it is to connect with me. So as much as possible, I like it more if it's a story that's not about business, not about marketing. It's about something in my life. But here's the key. Like, you start by figuring out what is your call to action, right? What is the content of your podcast, for example? And then how can I tell a personal story that I can then make this pivot and kind of pull a thread of a lesson out of it that relates to that call to action? And so again, that I don't like sweet baby Jesus story. I tell the story about opening my refrigerator because one of my friends would always buy these things and bring them over, and nobody ever drank them. And so they would always be sitting in my fridge, and I hated it. So I talked about that and told this is an abomination of a beer. And then I said, beer, like business, should be simple. Because that week's podcast episode was about keeping your business simple. So that's kind of how you make the pivot. You find some kind of story or thing like that from your life that you can bring around to a lesson. I mentioned lice. And again, I think you guys call them something different in Australia, but it's the stuff in your hair.
Oh, no, we call them lice. We call them lice.
Okay.
Or
okay.
nits. Lice or nits, we call them as well. Yeah.
But so this story, I was actually doing an affiliate promo. So this one was a sales email, but it was an affiliate promo of all things for Amy Porterfield's course. And I had gotten an email from my daughter's school, her first or second week of kindergarten, that there was a confirmed case of lice in her class. Not her, but I literally, when I got that email, I just started searching on the internet because I was like, I don't want that stuff in my house. I don't want to get it. What do I got to do? And so I did all this stuff. And so my story was about that. And I said, I went to the depths of the internet to try to figure this out because my wife says I can't shave my daughter's hair and burn her clothes when she gets home. And so I did that. But the hook was, and I could do that because I've built a business where I'm not trading time right now for money.
Gotcha.
And if you're trying to do that, my friend Amy Porterfield has this training where she can help you learn how to do that. So again, that's kind of how I made that pivot. So that's what you're looking for, is those kinds of stories that you can tie into whatever your message is for that week.
Gotcha. The whole time you were explaining that, I was trying to do it in my head. I'm like, all right, what's an example? And I think I've got one. Can I test one with you, Bobby?
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. So this is what happened to me the other week, Bobby. It was raining here in Australia. I hung out my clothes to dry. I live in an apartment and it's a shared clothesline down the bottom, right?
Okay.
So anyway, did my washing, hung it out there. It was kind of wet outside. And I was like, I'll go down and give it a check, see if it's dry before it starts raining, So I go down there, went to my underwear. I'm like, let me just pat it. Yeah, it looks dry. Let me smell it. Does it have that wet smell? It looks pretty dry. And then I heard a guy behind me be like, what are you doing, mate? And I turn around and it's my neighbor. And I'm like, and then as I did that, I was like, hold on, these aren't my underwear. This is my neighbor's underwear. And I was, oh man, I'm so sorry. And it was so embarrassing. But here's the moral of the story there. I didn't have a good I didn't really speak to my neighbor, right? If I had built a good relationship with my neighbor, we would have laughed about it. We would have had fun. But now it's really awkward. It's the same thing with your email list. If you've got a big relationship, you've got a good relationship with your email list. If you send something that's a bit weird, they're going to laugh or they're going to do it. But if you don't have that relationship and you send something a bit weird or you go too hard with a sell, they're going to think you're a weirdo.
Yep.
How's that?
That's a perfect type of thing. And so again, like the beauty of this is, and this is what I said, like what you're trying to do is help people see things from a different light. And the reason why getting it from a different context is important is, look, if people already understood the concept for email, I mean, you don't need to teach them that, right? But you're trying to get them to see that in another way. And so if you can tell a relatable story that they can relate to in life outside of whatever you teach, that will help to get them to kind of change their perspective in what you teach. And so the stories have this dual purpose. Number one, they connect, but also the hope is you can actually use them to teach. And again, this is a powerful thing for people to hear. Humans are hardwired to learn through story. And this is why there's allegories, parables, all of those things. It's because we actually learn better through story because we will retain it more than most other things. If I say the tortoise and the hare, people will automatically say, yes, slow and steady wins a race. So the message is right there from the story. And so it's not just a good way to connect. It's also a good way to help your audience learn, understand, change their perspective. And so it's kind of this dual power way to do it. But in addition, what I kind of recognize, and the reason why personal stories are powerful, and this hit me during the pandemic as I was writing my book, because I'd never figured it out. I was like, well, is it really just about personality? Is that why, because they get to know kind of that I'm a rebellious troublemaker? But it actually hit me. It's something different. When I'm telling these personal stories, I become a character in their life. Yeah. And so I kind of like to say that my emails are, they're getting their weekly, their weekly stories of kind of a weird marketer and different things he does in life. And it's kind of like a sitcom where you get used to it week after week. And so then you're craving it and you don't want it to end. So, and part of this, like, just so you guys know, because I know a lot of people say, oh, but if I email too much, people won't like it. I actually took a month off of emailing after kind of, at the beginning of this year, as we were redoing some stuff in my business. I actually had multiple people reach out to me and say, did I get off your list? Because I've been missing your emails and I really want them. And so I've had that happen. I've had people who are in again, one of my problems with emails is like, even my promo, like my sales sequences are fun and good and enjoyable. And so I've had people tell me they wait till the last minute to buy because they want to get all my emails. So I now have like a thing that like, I have to say this in any promo thing. I say, when you buy, I will give you all my promo emails. So don't wait, don't wait to buy. And then I've had other people who say they're signed up on my email list under multiple email addresses so they can get, they can get the stuff
sequence, if
the different
segmented
sequences. Yep. And so because they want to get even if they bought the stuff, they want to get the promo sequence because they want to see what I'm doing. So what I tell people is, everybody worries about, I'm going to email too much and people are going to get mad at me. I said, no, only if you're writing crappy emails.
Yeah.
And if you write good emails, the right people at least will want to get them.
Yeah. So. Because it's kind of like there's so many good things there as well. You've got me so motivated just to write an email. First thing I'm going to do off this podcast is download go to your university, and then I'm just going to write a personal email. Just a side note, I think I'm pretty good at that on Facebook. I can go on Facebook and I can write I haven't done a good enough job of correlating that over to email, but I can see how it would work. There'd be some tweaks or whatever, but I can see that there. And I love how you've said there's the connection side of things. And even if we go back to the story, I think the other reason why I quite like stories is most people don't like being told what to do. Hey, here's what you got to do this. No one wants to get an email like that. If you can craft that in a story and essentially still tell that person what to do, but in a story way, it's like the person will be more receptive because it doesn't sound like you're telling him what to do, Yep. And then I also like the story side of things because my take, that's essentially the best way to learn. From a course creator, I feel like if you're taking a course, your job is to teach that person something new, right? And my take on teaching something, which I stole from Tony Robbins, is essentially like if you're going to teach someone something new, or you're going to teach someone something, find something they already know, and then show them how it's like that new thing there.
Yep.
So let's say it's plumbing, for example, and you say, hey, you got to go to this exact pipe and then open this exact screw here and then turn it. I'm not going to understand any of it. But if they're like, hey, here's a pipe, here's how it's like a microphone, this is how it works, then I'll get it. So I love that there.
So that's funny because especially when you get into and it's not the sales sequence necessarily. It can come in a sales sequence, but it's often will come up most when you're in the context of kind of the pre-framing where you're trying to change people's viewpoints in the lead up to a launch, if you're doing a launch. And that's where often you're trying to change their beliefs and shift their beliefs. And I was talking to I was a guest in a group coaching program of some sort that was dealing with this. And one of the women, and by the way, I just want to be clear, this is not my opinion. I'm simply expressing the course idea that she had, or the program idea she had. Basically, her essential lesson to people was to women: stop chasing pretty guys because they're a nightmare. You need to not go after the pretty face.
There goes mine and your chances, right, Bobby?
Yeah.
There goes.
I say, luckily I have a voice for radio, not a looks for the movies. But at any rate, so she was saying this. And so I was presenting this idea and she said, oh, so I should tell personal stories about when I dated pretty faces and it didn't work out. I said, no, I mean, you can, but if they've already had that experience, they're already bought in. I said, no, you need to find other examples of judging a book by its cover being a mistake, of buying a car because it looked good, but it was a piece of junk. And I said, that's the thing where you make it more relatable outside of it. And like you said, you're finding an analogous situation that they can relate to help them understand this new idea that you're trying to get across in the specific area that you teach.
Yeah. And I love how you said your whole philosophy is essentially you want your audience to want your emails. Essentially, it sounds even stupid when you say it. It's like, well, of course, but I feel most people from an email side of things are like, oh, how can I send an email to sell? How can I make it? And yes, that is the outcome. That's fine. But it's kind of like if you go into it with that mindset, okay, what can I do to sell? It's going to be hard to sell. But if you kind of go into it where it's like, how can I get people wanting to open and read my emails? Then it's going to be easier to sell. That's it. Yeah. That's, if you had to summarize that point in a nutshell, is that what you'd say there, Bobby?
Yeah, I think that's right. And again, everybody will have to find their own approach and their own tone. And again, I like to say it's not fair. It's easier for me because one of the things that I get to do in my emails is I get to be very meta. I get to point out to people that I'm marketing to them when I'm marketing to them. And so it's a way for me to just because again, I'm like, hey, part of my role is to teach you how to market. and teach you how to market through email. So I'm going to say, hey, look right here. This is what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And then I do it to people. And so, I mean, I have that advantage. Plus, I'll be honest, I have taken all the different personality assessments, and my favorite is the Gallup Strengths Finder. And when I took that test, you read it, and some of my top strengths, literally you read it and it says, one of your strengths is that you can take stories from your personal life and bring them into your business. And I was like, have these been people have been looking over my shoulder because it was that good. But so I tell people, I get that it's easier for me than for some people. And I think it is for you too. Like we are storytellers, but it's a skill that's worth working on if it's not easy for you.
Well, that was going to be my next question. I was like, Bobby, you're kind of a charismatic guy, you know, you're confident. It sounds pretty easy to do this. Would you, and I guess there's a couple ways to do it. I guess you kind of answered it there, where if someone's listening to this and they're like, look, Bobby, I'm not as charismatic as you. I'm not as funny. You know, I don't have these stories like you do. Would you say it's just a matter of learning? What's your take? If someone said that to you, what's your answer back?
So anytime that someone says, well, Bobby, you're naturally funny and I'm not, I say, let me get my wife over here. She will assure you I'm not funny, because she's not. Now, again, what I'll tell you is you don't have to be funny.
Yeah.
That's not the key. The key is you want to cause some kind of emotional reaction. It could be inspiration, right? Some people could be inspiring. Me, and I've said this, some people say I am motivational, but I am not the motivate you by inspiring you with pretty words.
It's not the Tony Robbins.
No, I'm the motivate you. I'm the Gary Vaynerchuk kind of motivator saying, yeah, okay, do the thing. I mean, come on, shut up, just do the thing. I mean, that's my view. And so, but I say that a lot of people would be more inspirational, and that would be their value add in emails. It doesn't matter what emotional, kind of emotional thing you tap. What I suggest to people is figure out an avatar for your brand. And a great way to do this is go, and people can look up, it's the 12 Jungian archetypes, like Carl Jung. So JU, whatever, but I think it's 12, but there's these different types that he came up with. Maybe it's 16. Maybe it's 8. I don't remember, but there's some number, but there are different personality types. And kind of, these are like the roles that people play in stories traditionally. And so people have taken that and have learned from a brand perspective. And then from that, you can kind of come up with a tone. My tone, I am a rebel with a bit of jester mixed in. And so as a rebel, I tend to be fighting against the status quo, but with humor. I like to say that if people have to identify me, because we all hear story brand and people say you've got to be Obi-Wan, not Luke Skywalker, I say, screw that. I'm Han Solo. And that's really what I am. I'm kind of the jokester rebel. I mean, the guy who I'm going to support you, not by leading you, but by coming and shooting Darth Vader so he doesn't, shoot you, kind of a thing. That's what my role is. And so I established that personality, so that helps me find my voice. Everyone should figure out what they are. I mean, how do they show up in life? That's how you want to show up in your email. So if you are a calming presence, if that's what you are, and
gotcha,
that's what you are. You bring the calming energy, you bring that. I am a guy who is high energy, who is either going to be, this kind of jokester, snarky, or my other tone is a very, it's almost, people have said I sound like a preacher. And I'm taking people to business church. And that's when I am emotional about stuff and it is not funny. And I do that too. But I found those tones. And so because of that, I can tune into that. Everyone should do that. And I tell people, do that and figure that out and just give yourself a guide. So that's figuring out your tone. Second guidance here, get on Zoom calls with your friends, not your business friends, just friends. Record it, just chatting. And see what your cadence is, see how you talk, see those types of things, and then try to use that in your writing, because a lot of people, they might talk very colloquially, informally, but then they write and you're like, what in the world? I mean, what is this? Your writing should sound like you talk. And so you want to kind of find that tone as well. So that's the second piece. Then the third piece is, how do you find the stories? And this is, I kind of have, for people who struggle with it, I have a framework that says, it starts with, because most of this is going to be about your weekly content. So figure out what are the pillars of content that you're going to be creating. Kind of what are the different silos of topics, but also kind of then themes. And so for me, some of those themes are, I am pointing out what's wrong. So I'm being a rebel and pointing out what's wrong. So like that's a theme. And so I have to then come up with stories that I can tie into that. Another one of my themes is back to basics, keep it simple. So I need stories that have that message. And so I kind of identify these content pillars and then like themes for stories that could relate to those pillars. And then I look for stories that relate to those themes. And so when you get in this practice, you can do it. And then like once you have your themes, you can do it daily or weekly. I don't care. Ask yourself these questions. What did I do today? Who did I see? Where did I go? Who did I interact with? Ask those specific questions and think it through and say, is there a story there? Is there a story that I could tie into one of these themes? And if so, just jot it down. Now, you don't have to write the whole story, just jot down the idea so you can remember it. And then over time, you'll start to build this vault of stories that you can use for the different themes.
Love it. And you'll get better as well, I guess. You'll start, if you go in with that, you'll kind of be like, oh, there's a story I can use. Oh, there's a story I can. It's like the red car kind of thing. You know, it's like if you're thinking of a red car, you always see that red car. You're thinking of the story. That's awesome. There's some really good points there because listening to this, I was thinking of it for myself and I'm like, I like Bobby's style. That's probably the style I would like to have for my emails, but that's not what all the listeners are going to be like, right? So it's kind of like,
I mean, I was going to say, like, I have someone in my group coaching program. She is a yoga, breath work, meditation teacher for pregnant women. If she had if she tried to be like me, it would not work because she's the ultimate in calming experience. And I'm like, if she tried to bring my attitude, it would be so off. And so everyone has to find their own personal style and just really kind of, figure that out. And that will help them to get to the point that they just kind of, people come to expect it and they feel comfortable when they read your emails because they know what to expect.
And they'll like it. It's kind of like, it's the old saying, if you try and please everybody, you end up pleasing nobody. You can't please everyone. So find your lane. Bobby is the funny guy. People like, funny stuff. They're going to follow Bobby. Some people find him silly. They're going to unsubscribe because they think he's silly. That's fine. They're never going to, it's not the ideal person for him. They might want to be with someone that's more calming. Great. They go with his yoga teacher. Me, I'm not a yoga guy. I'm going to probably unsubscribe from that yoga because I'm never going to do it, and it's similar to like, even I think a simple one to use here is kind of like the professional and unprofessional side of things, right? There's going to be some people that are like, say for mine, because I'm a pretty chilled kind of guy, they'd be like, this guy's too unprofessional, unsubscribe. That's fine. That's not me, right? But there's going to be other people that are like, I like this guy. The language is simple. It's easy to understand. It's not complicated. It's real. And that's fine. There's not a right or a wrong. It's like, what's your lane? And then pick people on those lane there. And the one thing that I guess that kind of grinds me is if I'm speaking to someone about email marketing, and they'll be like, oh, but won't people not like that? And it's kind of like, people is a broad, but people is a broad. Like, there's not one thing that you can say every single person in the world loves this, or every single people. Like, yes, some people will hate it, right? But whatever you do, some people will hate it.
So the only way that you're going to not have people unsubscribe from your list and you're not going to have anyone dislike your emails is if you don't email. Literally, that's the only way it's going to happen. And the key to this, and I want to kind of like really tease something out of what you said, is the importance of why you want to be you in your emails is because, again, I don't know how you're going to sell, but however you're going to go about selling and then showing up for your audience, like if you show up in your emails one way, and then all of a sudden come time to sell, it's completely different. There's going to be this disconnect. And so you've attracted all these people who aren't going to like you. Why would you do that? I mean, you'd rather, like, I tell people, so right now, I think it's now, and we maybe haven't gotten it into all of our sequences, but the second email I send people is, and I forget the subject line, but I think it's something like The Clash had it right. And so the point is, hey, are you going to stay? Or are you going to go? I want to tell you what's happening. I want to tell you that every once in a while, you're going to find some 4-letter words in my emails, and you're going to find personality. You're going to find some pretty bad dad jokes. You're going to find some pop culture references. You're going to find that. If that's not for you and you just want the freebie, cool, no big deal. Go ahead. And I don't even make them unsubscribe. I have a button right there. I say, here, click this to unsubscribe.
Yeah, love it.
And I just tell people right up front. And then again, in the other thing I tell people is an important part of what you should do is everyone should write a welcome sequence at the beginning, which is not selling it as an orientation into your world. And I start the first email in that says, buckle up, it's going to get weird. And again, I tell people that, and I tell a story. I also tell a lot of pop culture, and it tends to be 90s and early 2000s pop culture references. Perfect. But so I tell these people, I said, I want you to know what you're getting into. And here's why. It's because I remember when I was in college, Kevin Smith's movie Chasing Amy came out, and I went to watch it at the theater. And I was pissed, because how do you say this is a romantic comedy where the two people don't end up together? Because that's not cool. And so I basically said, I want you to know what you're getting in for. And so if I'm not for you, no big deal. Go ahead and unsubscribe now. And so again, I do that. And then my welcome sequence tells them what I believe in, what I stand for, the things that I have that can help them for free, the things that I sell, all of that stuff to kind of give them an understanding of who I am, what I stand for. And so they can make an educated decision. Do they want to stick around, or am I not the right person for them?
Love it. That's so good. The other thing I love about that is it's kind of like, sometimes I think in the internet marketing world, we can kind of beg people for their email address. I'll do anything possible to get this person's email address. Yours is almost a bit the opposite. It's kind of like, yeah, I'll get your email address, but if you're not for me, get off ASAP. The only people I want here are the people that really want to be here. And there's something about it. It's like, not only does it work numbers wise, the open rates will be better and all that sort of stuff, but it's something about the personality where it's almost like, I don't need your email. I'm fine. And there's something attractive about that, right? It's kind of like, there's always something attractive about you not needing something. And I think that can add to there as well. If someone's like, oh, this person doesn't need my email, he must be good at what he does, I better stay on here. Whereas if the person's trying to do everything possible to, not let them off, it's kind of like, this person's desperate. They must be bad. That's what I see a bit there.
Yeah. So, and again, like, this is where, like, we're getting meta here, but that's definitely true. Like, literally, so my entry level paid product on the marketing side is a membership. So it's for people who haven't yet gotten to 1,000 leads. It's like helping them with with messaging, with content, with that kind of stuff. And the second email in kind of the sales sequence for it, the subject line is online memberships suck. And literally, I mean, I'm just saying, like, let's be honest, who is going to put that in a sales email for memberships? Me, because I'm going to address the elephants in the room, and I'm going to talk about those things. And I think that converts. And you're right. Me telling people, hey, stay or go, I don't really care. But again, it fits my personality too. Yeah. And so but what I tell people is my list. So, I've been parts of affiliate launches in the past where I hit these, where I'm in the top 5 or the top 10, and my list is maybe 20% as big as everybody else in that area, because I have this ultra strong connection with my audience, and everybody else leaves because Bobby is not for them. Yeah. And they're like, I don't know who this guy is, but I'm out of here. But I also have plenty of people who've been on my list since 2018. Yeah. And in this world, that's saying something, to have a lot of people who stuck around for 4 years is a big thing.
100%. Now, we could speak about this all day, Bobby. There's a couple of questions I like to always finish up with. There's one that I'm just going to ask you specifically, though, because I think another big part of your philosophy is all around storytelling. So even if you're not funny or you're not whatever, you still got to half learn how to tell a story. What's the best resource someone could start with there? If they're like, I got no idea how to tell a story, what's the first thing they could do?
So there is one book that I love. It's called Stories That Stick. I think that's a good one, but really it's just practice. What I'm going to tell you is, at first, when you start this, if listeners have been here and they have not been writing stories and emails, and they say, okay, I'm going to do what Bobby said, and I'm going to start it. I'm going to tell you, your stories up front, they're going to be way too long, and that's okay. You'll get better at it. But part of it is figuring out, hey, what are the details that matter?
Yeah.
and what are the ones that don't? If
Yeah.
it doesn't matter that it was a Tuesday, don't mention that it was a Tuesday. I mean,
Yeah.
you just try to kind of cull it down. But also there's storytelling, but if you want to learn how to tell stories, go and watch, not people who've written stories, but go watch TV. I think that's why I'm a good storyteller, because I watch TV and I pick up on these little things. And so like there's all of these little things. And again, I'm going to be kind of dating myself with this, but some people will pick up that my personality in the emails. I mean, yes, I have my funny personality, but in a lot of ways, I play a role of Detective Columbo, who, if you don't know who Detective Columbo was, he was this guy who he seemed to be bumbling, stumbling, but would always solve the case. But after you've watched a few episodes, you realize he's not bumbling, stumbling. He's just kind of pretending. And so I talk in a way that gives people that same impression. So I have this role. And so there are these little Easter eggs that people pick up on. And there's like even subtler Easter eggs. Like in that show, one of the funny things was that you never saw Mrs. Columbo. He talks about her, different people talk about her, but you never see her, you never know her name.
That's sick.
Same thing with my wife.
Yeah.
I've never mentioned my wife's name in any email. I've never sent any pictures of my wife, my family, etc., because of a decision we've made as a family not to do that. Yep. But I talk about my wife.
Yeah.
And so she plays the role, and she's kind of this, before I had a team, my wife was the person who would roll her eyes at me. Now it's my team. And so I have characters, and I build these characters kind of recurring so that my audience gets to know not just me, but the other kind of players in my character or in my life. And so that's a more advanced strategy, but as you get good at it, you'll start picking up. But the answer is watch TV, watch movies, see how the great storytellers tell a story and use those tools.
Love it. Are you a Seinfeld fan at all, Bobby?
I am. I make lots of Seinfeld references in my emails as well.
Well, I think that's also a good, because another thing I was going to ask earlier is, what if you don't have much of a life? But it's kind of like, watch Seinfeld, the jokes they come up with when you're sitting at a coffee shop or, someone calls you on the phone, like it's crazy.
I mean, exactly. And so for a long time, my last call reminder email before a webinar was, I told this story of one of my friends. He's a lawyer and I'm a lawyer, and it was his wedding. And I was in his wedding party, and we were about to go out, and his dad, who's also a lawyer, said, no, go to the bathroom. He said, we don't have to. He said, you never pass up an opportunity to go to the bathroom. And so I tell that story, and I basically tell people, so go to the bathroom now, because you got 10 minutes, you got to be sitting at the webinar. So again, it's this 15-second tidbit of life that you can pull a story out of. Another one of my classic stories is about me going for walks at 6 a.m. here in Washington, D.C., and coming back and telling my wife that I don't get it. There are all these people who are like wearing these, they're wearing clothes like they're going to the club, and I don't get it. And she rolls her eyes and says, they're doing the walk of shame, dummy. And I didn't realize it. And this was my last email in a promo sequence. I don't want you doing the walk of shame by not buying the thing now. So again, a nothing story, me not picking up on something, and that's a story. So yeah, Seinfeld is the way to go for most of these. Most of the stories should be those kinds of things. You don't want epic stories.
Yeah.
Epic stories should be few and far between.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. So the closing questions. Okay. Everyone listen to this. Bobby is a course creator. One of their most common questions is, what course platform should I use? Or what course platform does everyone use? I'm curious, your course platform of choice, what do you use, or what do you recommend?
So it depends on where you are in your journey. My platform is way more complicated. We use Access Ally as a plugin on our WordPress site, but that's because we have a web developer and we wanted to do some really fancy stuff. Before that, I was actually using Kartra, and I actually really love Kartra. My team, not so much, but I love it. I think of the all-in-ones is probably the best because its email marketing capability is among the best and among those. So Kartra is one I love. And then if I was picking another one, I would actually go probably with Thinkific for most people, I think.
Okay. Cool. Good tips there. I haven't heard of the plugin you use. Most people that use WordPress use the LearnDash one.
Yes.
But Thinkific, very popular. I think Thinkific is the leader from my Facebook group and in terms of numbers, in terms of the most people that do it.
So I'm in a lot of the communities that I think I'm in. Kajabi is probably the one that people use the most, but I feel like for most people, the price point, it's too high, and they're pitching it as an all-in-one, but their email marketing has limits and all of those things. So again, it's okay, but I like Thinkific if you're just looking for a course platform way more than Kajabi.
Yeah, well, I'll give a few insights there. I think also you're probably in the Amy Porterfield type communities, right?
Yes.
And that's got a huge skew towards Kajabi. So I think there's that as well. My take with Kajabi, I do love it. I think it's the best, to be honest. If I had to pick, like in terms of capabilities for most people, I would suggest Kajabi, but the price point is very high for a beginner. It's like, I think it's $197 a month for like 3 courses. It's like a couple mini courses and your main course, and you're already up to $297, and then even then it's got limitations. So it's kind of like, if you're starting off, that may not be the best use of your money there.
So actually another one that I tell people they might want to look at is Searchy. And I don't know if people have looked at that, but Searchy, it's Stu McLaren from Tribe and the membership guy.
Yeah.
It started as basically, it's a great functionality for other things. We use it for something else, which is it will allow you can have a widget and people can type in a search term because it automatically transcribes, and it'll pull all the videos and take them right to the point of the video where you said that word. So it's great for that. But now they have the ability to build hubs, which are courses. You can build courses and all the stuff in it. And there's a lot of functionality in it. We looked at that for our Bomb U, but we were a very early beta tester, like one of the first 10, and it wasn't yet ready. But I know a lot of people doing great things on that one as well.
Okay. Yeah, I've seen it around. I think he did a webinar not too long ago, and a couple of my friends checked it out. So I'll keep an eye on that. All right. Next question, Bobby, is around mentors. So you're obviously a mentor for plenty of people out there, plenty of marketers, plenty of email marketers. I'm curious to hear who your biggest mentors have been. If you could answer this in a few different ways, if you could give us a paid mentor to someone that you've paid money to, you've done their course, their coaching program, you've actually handed over cash, someone that you haven't paid money to, but you listen to their podcast or follow them on social media and you love their content, and then a book, apart from your own, that you recommend every marketer should read.
I'll start with the last one. The book is easy. It's The Go Giver. That is a no-brainer. Everyone should read that book. I consider that.
Is that?
Yeah, it's Bob Burg and I think it's Mann. So it's Berg and Mann, I think. But yeah, that book to me, I reread it. And again, it is a parable. It's told in a very simple way. You can read the book in maybe an hour and a half. I think it's a great book. I think everybody should consume it, and it will help you understand the concept of giving and giving the right way. Not as a tactic, not as a strategy, but simply being a giver. And so it is a great book. So that's the book. Now, people I follow who I don't necessarily haven't paid money to, I'm doing more and more following people outside of the kind of insular online marketing world. So I'm actually listening more to people in the startup world these days. And, Eric Ries with things like Lean Startup, because I think a lot of that we could bring over to our space and need to bring over to our space and bring this professional type of product development ideas to our space. So that would be the suggestion there. So I would say literally, I consume stuff about startups, lean marketing, not lean startup, and that stuff. That's actually what I consume for learning. And you have to have one of those minds where you can see analogies and see how to apply it, because they're not talking about our world, but I think it's valuable. As for people I've paid, I've paid a lot of the folks in kind of this general world. So Amy Porterfield, I bought lots of her stuff. James Wedmore, I was in his world for a while. I was in Ryan Levesque's world. I think the question is, what do you need? And what is it that you're most looking for?
Yeah.
And then find someone who can help you with that. And that I think is the thing that people need to do rather than simply following. But another thing is, I think having one mentor is not the way to go. I like to say that all the gurus, I mean, a good guru would tell you they don't know the answer. They can give you some guidance, they can give you some best guesses, but ultimately you're going to have to find the answer by working with your audience. And so I always tell people you want multiple voices in your ear, not just one.
Love it. Some good answers there. I love the out of the space kind of thing, because it's like if you're just following everyone else in the space, it's kind of like this, just the same kind of info regurgitated, right? Which is fine. It might be good info, but if you can go out of the space and then use that in your space, you're a pioneer. And that's what I was able to find. My first business was in the fitness industry, business coaching for fitness professionals. And if I just did the same thing all the other fitness business coaches did, it's not bad stuff, but I'm just a kind of a worse version of them, you know? But it's like, if I can go out of the space and get something new that no one in the space is doing, you're a pioneer in that space. So I think that's awesome tips. And I love the need what you're looking for. And I think it can be hard starting off because you might not know. And maybe starting off, it's okay to go with someone general. But I love what you said there, where if someone's listening to this and they're like, right, I got this course, but it's just not selling. Okay, well, are you getting leads? Oh, you're not getting leads? Okay, let's start there. You know, what platform are you going? Are you a YouTube person? Are you an Instagram person? Okay, well, you're using Instagram, you're not getting leads. Go and do Vanessa Lau's course, you know, or go and find someone who's an Instagram expert and do that. Someone's on the flip side. Hey, I got all these followers, but I'm not making any sales. You know, what do I do? Okay, well, go and find, you know, a sales expert. You're getting emails, you're not making emails, sales. Go and speak to Bobby, you know, like find that thing that you need help with and go there, because sometimes it can be easy to be sucked in. Oh, I saw this Facebook ad and this Bobby guy does everything, so I'm going to sign up with him. And then he's not a bad, it's just not exactly what he needs. So I love that.
Well, and again, like the thing I tell people is part of the problem. Everybody needs to and we marketing coaches, we have ruined the internet because there is this notion of the superlative messaging, which is to say, for example, if I were strictly an email coach, that's what I taught. I would be taught to say email marketing is the best way to. And so everyone is saying my thing is the best. And it's the best for certain people in certain circumstances. So you need to filter that out. But it's also a personality thing. Like, again, and I think of James Wedmore, he's very much in the woo spiritual crystal world. And if that doesn't resonate with you, his stuff's probably not going to resonate with you. And so you have to understand all of those different kind of even personality quirks of people too.
I agree. All right. So, Bobby, that's pretty much all I wanted to cover today. I'm sure there's going to be a heap of people listening to this that are like, all right, this guy's cool. I'm going to check out his courses. I'm going to go on his email list. In terms of following you, Bobby, what's your best social? Is it the podcast, your Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook?
So the podcast is the best place, like for kind of connecting with me. But then separately, I am a Facebook guy because I like building community. So you can connect with me, or the page is Bobby Klink. And then also I have a group called Badass Online Marketers. And that's where we talk about business, email. People will ask legal stuff. We'll talk about that because I still have those roots, but it's a chance to kind of talk about how to build a business the right way. So
awesome. I'm not in your group, but I'm going to join it right now. Awesome. Well, that's pretty much all I wanted to cover for today, Bobby. Is there anything I should have asked you but forgot to, or anything you want to finish us off with?
You really want to open that can of worms? I mean, we could talk so long, but no, I mean, I think we've had a great conversation. I think the big lesson I would give people is don't overthink it. Just get writing and just start writing emails. And the sooner you start doing it, the better. So that's my suggestion to people.
Awesome. All right, Bobby, thanks very much for your time.
Thank you.